That there he is. So let's listen in here to Jim Delany.
Players and our coaches and administrators evaluated it, made some changes, and we're here today. So I know in being with the coaches last night and seeing some of the players today, it really is a very unique opportunity. College sports is thriving in New York City. A game day's been here. We've got Super Saturday for the third year coming up with a hockey basketball doubleheader in later January. There are 3 college basketball tournaments in the area. And obviously, Disney's new deal with Altus signifies even more college sports available in this unique and important city. We have slightly less than 100,000 Big Ten alums living in the area, slightly less than 1 million in this corridor. So we'll be serving not only fans from the Midwest, but also many of our new fans and many of our legacy fans who've moved into this very important corridor. In a short period of time, we've really been able to establish a presence out here. We said we wanted to do it, but whether it's the Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium, a variety of events and marketing partnerships with Madison Square Garden, or a variety of other tournaments. Last year we were in D.C. This year we're in New York. We've got offices here. We've got lots of reasons to come and live, and it's what we wanted to do. It's what we thought we should do, and I appreciate all of the collaboration with people throughout the Big Ten to make these things possible. Basketball in the Big Ten is in great shape, whether you look back 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years. We've got 3 new coaches in the league with Brad Underwood, Archie Miller, and Chris Holtman. We welcome them. These are successful coaches before they came here, and we expect them to have success here as well. We've got a number of returning players on the first and second and third teams. And we do a great job of not only recruiting players, but developing players. In the last 8 years, we've had 5 National Players of the Year. Denzel Valentine in 16, Frank Kaminsky in 15, Oladipo and Trey Burke in 13, Draymond Green in 12, and Evan Turner in 10. So, you know, many of our players are able to not only succeed academically, but athletically, and in particular, I think these players indicate how you can rise to the very top in college basketball by playing in the Big Ten. We've got quality and we've got parity. 7 different teams have shared a Big Ten regular season championship in the last 15 years. 7 different teams have won the Big Ten men's tournament. For the 41st straight year, we led the country in attendance. And going back to Chicago and into Indy, back to Chicago in 19 and 21, and Indy in 20 and 22. Looking out into the future, we've got, as noted earlier, a tremendous fan base in this region of the country. We will be returning to the Midwest, as noted, but we'll probably try to aspire to maybe an 80-20 split between Midwestern venues and Eastern venues. So the great majority will be back in the Midwest, but we'll be back here from time to time to reflect where our schools are located as well as where our alumni live. Going back over the last decade, 13 of our 14 teams have made it to the NCAA Tournament, all 14, with Northwestern qualifying last year, which was a great story. All 14 of our schools have played in the NCAA Tournament. In the last decade, we've had 7 teams in the Final Four, 10 teams in Elite 8, and 28 teams in the Sweet 16, and the only conference to qualify multiple teams into the Sweet 16 over the last decade. We've averaged over 6 teams per year, 63 teams in 10 years, winning 93 tournament games. This is amplified by television. This year, 17-18 will be the 11th consecutive season where all games are nationally telecast. And with Fox joining the Big Ten alignment of media partners, we'll have Fox, ESPN, BTN, and CBS. People continue not only to attend our games, but also to watch them. Last year, CBS was plus 18% year over year in ratings. BTN was plus 10%. So we're very excited to have Fox in our partnerships in addition to their joint venture with BTN. And they have had great success in the first 6 weeks of college football, and we expect them to have great success going into basketball. So we've got partners with big platforms, big promotions, and we're quite proud of that. CBS will televise the semifinals and finals for our tournament, and that goes all the way back. They've been doing this since 1998. And a new feature is that BTN will telecast 10 of the 13 events. So they'll have a tremendous presence here, not only on Super Saturday, but also with our tournament. At this juncture, I'd like to bring up Dan Weinberg from CBS. Dan is point person for CBS. Our relationship with them goes back to the early 90s, and as noted, back to 1998 with our tournament. So at our football kickoff luncheon, we brought up ESPN, BTN, and Fox, and since CBS's relationship with us is basketball, I wanted to bring Dan up to say a few words on behalf of this partnership. So welcome, and thank you.
Thank you. Everybody, good morning. Thanks so much to the Commissioner. We're very, very appreciative to be part of the program today for a short bit here. On behalf of all the men and women at CBS Sports, we are extremely pleased and really proud to be continuing this long-standing relationship with the Big Ten. Goes back almost 3 decades now. Big Ten basketball has been and continues to be an incredibly important anchor for CBS Sports college basketball coverage for several generations. You all know we eat and breathe college basketball at CBS Sports. It's part of our DNA, and Big Ten basketball has been a cornerstone of that for a long, long time now. Every year we enjoy telling the stories of the Big Ten student athletes, the Big Ten institutions, the conference as a whole. We relish the opportunity to cover the league every year from November right on through the NCAA Tournament. And as you mentioned, Jim, we're very proud of the fact that the semifinals and the championship game of your conference tournament have only had one home, CBS Sports, since its inception a couple decades ago. So overall, CBS Sports, we take a tremendous amount of pride in this partnership. We value it a great deal. It is a priority for us, and we're pleased it'll be that way into the next decade. So thanks again to you, Commissioner Delany, also to the team in the league office led by Mark Rudner, who we work so closely with all the time. We look forward to many successful seasons of Big Ten basketball on CBS Sports moving forward, and we'll see you all on the road to the Final Four.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks. Appreciate you.
Thank you. So I've completed my remarks and be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Let's go left side, second row.
When did the idea of having the conference tournament come to Madison Square Garden?
I can't give you a precise date, but I can tell you that when Rutgers and Maryland as new members came into focus, it occurred to me that we needed to be very proactive about developing a presence in the corridor. It led us to make some decisions about locating an office here. It made sense for us to push very hard for BTN distribution. And so the date is not clear to me, but it was one of maybe the most important of many decisions that we wanted to make to live here, not visit here. And we moved. It wasn't easy to move the schedules in the way we did, but we got collaboration. I thanked our coaches last night for that, and it's a little bit additionally challenging because Northwestern's facility is being renovated, and with the Super Bowl in Minneapolis, we lost some additional dates. So we got great cooperation from everybody, and we're very much looking forward to being here.
Let's go front row in the aisle. Just a reminder to please stand when asking your question.
Jim, I just wonder, as the commissioner, when you look at the coaches throughout the conference, what role do you feel you play, and maybe what needs to change to create more minority coaches and more opportunities for minority coaches in the league?
Yeah, of course, we've had minority coaches. We don't have them on our roster now, but we have had over many decades. And the role we play, I think, is a more general one, both in the conference office as well as on our campuses. Equity is important. Opportunity is important. Fairness is important. So it's pretty much bred into everything we do. As you may know, We've had 5 or 6 people leave our office to run leagues, Division I leagues, a couple women, a couple African Americans, a couple of Caucasians, and across our coaching, our ADs, our presidents, as well as minor sports. It's important, and it's a meritocracy, and everybody should be provided an opportunity to compete. And so I think it's in our DNA. How the actual search comes out is a local decision based on what the institution needs and wants at that time and what the pool of candidates is. But, you know, we're foursquare for opportunity, for diversity, and, you know, it's something that's talked about regularly at really all levels of our governance.
Going to go front right, the round table.
Morning, Jim. Teddy Greenstein from the Chicago Tribune. 20-game conference schedule. What are the benefits of that, and what were the challenges in making it happen?
Yeah. So we've been looking at basketball and took a pretty hard look this year as we were navigating a shorter season, the same number of games. We looked at the place of basketball, not only in the Big Ten, but nationally, and really came to a conclusion, which we talked with our coaches, talked with our administrators, that we needed to control the number of quality games. We felt we could add quality games in basketball. We felt we could spread out the games a bit, and therefore there'll be a couple games in early December. We thought we could experiment over time in terms of making the presentation of Big Ten basketball even better. We've sold out or not sold out, but we've led the country for 41 years. We've had pretty good television ratings. But we're also conscious of the fact that college football has grown tremendously, and part of that, not all of that, but part of that has been by increasing the quality of games, going from 8 to 9, the addition of the college football playoff, the addition of the major intersectional, and some control on playing schools with fewer scholarships and fewer resources. So we thought that taking an approach to college basketball similar to the one we did to college football would help us, you know, lessen compression in January and February with good planning, trying to capture some interest. We've got a Gavitt games, we've got an ACC challenge. Now we have 2 additional games in December, and albeit we will lose 2 non-conference games, but we think in general people respond more to the conference game than the non-conference. And we're also able, I think, to build on the historic rivalries. We have 3 that are within the state, in Indiana and Purdue, in Indiana, Purdue, Michigan State, Illinois, Northwestern, but also to build some regionalization. If you look at the release, you can see that those 3 will play 100% of the time. The regional rivals, and there are 4 in the East and 4 in the West, will play 10 times in a 12-year period, and then all others will play 9 times in a 12-year period. So we just thought playing against each other more was good, and good for the Big Ten and good for college basketball generally.
Go right-hand side, midway back, and then back right.
Thank you. Jim, Matt Charbonneau, Detroit News. With the FBI investigation that came out a week or so ago, I'm wondering what the Big Ten's reaction is to that. Is there anything as a conference you can do moving forward to kind of alleviate some of those issues?
Yeah, well, we're all concerned, and we should be. We don't know what we don't know. We just sort of know what you know, what we read about in the paper. We've had no contact with the government. We really don't have any facts other than what we've read. And I'm sure it will unfold, and we'll learn more as things, as investigations become more public. But, you know, I'm not shocked about this. This is the 9th or 10th intersection between college basketball and FBI going back to 1950. Southern District of New York uncovered a very wide-ranging gambling scandal in 1950. In 1960, same thing. In the late 70s, a more narrow set of gambling investigations. Middle 80s again. Later 80s, agents came into the scene. Early 90s, gambling again. Later 90s, some gambling and agent-related investigations out of Detroit. 2000 in Kansas City. and then 2017 back in the Southern District of New York. So there have been at least 9 intersections between college basketball and the FBI in my life. And I can remember I grew up across the river in New Jersey, and waking up as a 12-year-old and seeing 2 individuals being taken out of their dormitory in handcuffs by the FBI for their alleged engagement in gambling. So we should all be concerned. We don't know what we don't know. Our coaches will coach, and they will do the best they can to get students to class and get them on the right path. But beyond that, the Big Ten does not have any information that you do not otherwise have. So it's speculation, probably doesn't benefit anybody at this juncture.
Let's go back right.
Good morning, Jim. Ralph Russo with the Associated Press. Yep. I know it's not in your conference, but it affects college sports.
Sure.
And it's related to a school that you have a close relationship with. Any reaction of the NCAA's decision on North Carolina to essentially not punish them for the academic issue?
Not really. I mean, the story is the story. The NCAA concluded that it didn't have jurisdiction. So no matter how much someone may view the merits of those were not good practices that occurred there. They were not good practices for students. They were not good practices for the university or its athletes. They've taken a lot of corrective action, and the NCAA simply concluded didn't have jurisdiction. So beyond that, I can't really say much. I don't think it was a win or a loss. I think it was NCAA has some limitations in terms of the application of its bylaws. And listening to Commissioner Sankey, that's what I took away.
Jim, we're going to go front right.
Jeff Goodman, ESPN.
Yep.
Getting back, Jim, to the FBI investigation, what are the things that you would do to try to clean up college basketball right now?
Yeah, well, you know, we've talked to our coaches. I've given them Gene Smith's phone number and encouraged them. I know he's encouraged them. He'd like to hear from them. I think internally we'll have some discussions and pass on our recommendations to the commission. I think that, you know, President Emmert put it well. Half steps are not sufficient. Obviously, there's a number of things that could be done structurally, but also I think one of the things that stands out to me is that in the first 6 investigations, it was external people working with players to fix games. In the last 3 or 4, there's been more engagement on the agent side, the advisor side, still some perhaps gambling, and in these most recent cases, there are people inside of our programs. And that's a big difference between being inside and outside. But different kinds of federal laws apply. There's an NCAA side to this. There's a federal government side to this. There's also a value side to this. So I think we all have to be very honest about, once we know what's going on, to address it as best we can. I don't have a list of 5 reforms I'd like to see, but I do think it starts with abiding by the rules that we all agree to. You may disagree with the rules, and there are methods for changing those, both at the NCAA. Some people go to court. But until rules are changed, you abide by the rules, period.
Let's go front right on the aisle.
Rob Macaulay, Illini Report. To follow up on that, do you see a conflict between the Constitution's right against self-incrimination versus the NCAA's requirement to report?
I hadn't thought about, you know, the right against that. One is a criminal standard. The other is an administrative standard created by a voluntary association. So I don't think there's any conflict. I've never heard that argued at NCAA. You can belong to it or not belong to it. You can subscribe to its rules or not. You can try to change its rules. But in any organization, whether it's a private or public, you're expected to follow the rules of the organization. I've never seen anybody challenge it under a Fifth Amendment on a Fifth Amendment basis. Yeah.
Let's go left-hand side, second row. Time for a few more questions.
Can you discuss about having the conference championship tournament games during at Madison Square and the week before championship week?
Yeah, I mean, that was a known variable when the decision was made. We had a lot of discussion. It's not where we've been in the 20 or so years that we've had a tournament. I know that the coaches had some discussion about how they would use that last week. Most of them coached at the mid-major level before coming here, and they've experienced that there. I have as well when I was in the Ohio Valley Conference. So most people have had some experience with it. I mean, what the two sides are, you get more of an opportunity to rest. On the other hand, you get more of the opportunity to maybe get a little rusty. And so I think each of them have had an experience. I think all of them have concluded that they don't want to play a scrimmage or a competition, to my knowledge. And so, they'll rest up a little bit. And I know the way it will play out. If we have a successful tournament, they'll probably attribute it to playing well. If they probably don't have it, they'll probably attribute it to the layoff. So, but we won't know until it happens. But it happens for, good 10, 15 of the conferences. And you still see teams playing well with the time off. But we'll see what happens.
We're going to go back right, then back left, then front right.
Jim, Tim Fisher, Learfield. You mentioned earlier an 80-20 potential split as far as for down the road with tournaments. Are you thinking New York City, or are you looking at other strategic spots on the East Coast? And have there been other cities that have reached out?
Yeah, I mean, my thought would be that over time we would be out here a couple of times. Where we would go and when we would go is subject to discussions. I don't have any preconceived notion. Obviously, New York and D.C. are, really important venues, but there are other important venues, and sort of we would be open to that. But we went to D.C. and New York first because we thought those were the two best fits for us in the early stages. So what I wanted to signal as much as anything else is that most of our institutions and most of our fan base is in the Midwest, and we will be there, a good bit, but we're also will be living here, and we're trying to bring those two regions together from the standpoint of competition, fan exposure, television exposure, marketing exposure, because I think it's an incredibly important area for us, and we want to be here, and so it's just a signal that we'll be back.
Let's go back left corner, last row.
Jim Metcalf, ESPN. Obviously, there's a lot going on with the sport. If you had to give college basketball a grade, A, B, C, D, or F right now, what grade would you give it?
Well, I'm not, fortunately, don't have to give anybody a grade. I'm not a teacher. I'm very concerned, and yet I'm not shocked. You hear things, you don't have facts. If you did have facts, you would share them with appropriate people. We've always encouraged our coaches to abide by the rules. We've always encouraged our coaches to help young people move towards education. There's some very good things going on in college basketball, and obviously by recent reports there's some things that are very wrong. But I would be reluctant to give it a grade.
Let's go final question, front right.
Roger Rubin from New York Newsday.
Yep.
In terms of you sort of addressed the whole timing of the Big East Big Ten tournament coming the week before the Big East is here. To the layperson who's just a hardcore Big Ten fan, can you explain why New York is so important that you possibly put these teams that are going to make the tournament at the disadvantage of having all that time off?
Yeah, well, I would disagree that it's a disadvantage. You won't know if it's an advantage or disadvantage until you have results. We've had years where we've had tremendous success in the tournament. We've had years where we've been less successful. So I think that it's important to us because I've noticed from time to time when you see expansion, you don't see a proactive follow-up on it. You add institutions, but you don't embrace them. You add geography, but you don't live there. You don't make a significant or sufficient effort to become part of communities that are new to you. And so while the Big Ten has been around for 122 years and we have the largest alumni base and probably the most disparate Big Ten distribution, we wanted to be more than clear. We wanted to actively compete and participate in this corridor. Why this corridor? I think it's the most probably important corridor in the country, maybe the world, if you look at media, if you look at politics, if you look at banking, if you look at finance. And so it was important for us to be here, to live here, participate, and to do everything we could to facilitate integration athletically, competitively, culturally. And that's why we're here.
Thanks, Jim.